Hello, this is Krista Giannak, Wise Words That Matter. And today I'm going to be talking to you about time management techniques. So let's talk about time management. I know there are a lot of tips out there, and everyone's always looking for ways to save time or manage time. So I wanted to share my take as a creative professional, especially for experts and people who use their brains to get things done, because it is a different sort of time management when you're thinking and being creative versus doing tasks that don't really take much concentration. So one thing that I do, of course, the standard tried and true tip is to prioritize. So take your tasks and prioritize them and figure out which ones need to be done first and just kind of get them done. So my take on that is to discover each task's true deadline. So sometimes a list of tasks, whether they're big or small, can get pretty overwhelming. And so it makes sense to look at each task and look at when they actually need to be done. So there's usually some sort of date in the future where I can say, wow, if I don't do this task by such and such a date, I'm not going to get good results, or I'm going to get the best results if I do the task by such and such a date. Also, if I am blind, so if I need to adjust the camera, please let me know. I didn't get a chance to fine-tune that with a volunteer today. So setting a task's true deadline is really important to me. And I tend to meet deadlines when I reliably meet deadlines when they affect others or when they have some other consequence. But by contrast, I tend to meet deadlines for myself, like if they don't affect anyone, I tend to meet them less frequently. So therefore, I like to look at deadlines in a realistic way and say, what's going to happen if I don't do this task? And make sure I know exactly what's going to happen for myself and for other people if I don't do it. So setting deadlines forces me to think about what will happen if I meet, exceed, or miss a deadline. And my phone's reminders app keeps track of these tasks for me, and I find that really useful. It reminds me on the date and time I set, and so I change those reminders on a regular basis. And they tend to include all sorts of tasks, like follow-ups, project decisions, anything else I'm not ready to do right now. So another technique I use is to manage the schedule and to calendarize lengthy tasks. So while I don't schedule everything, carving out time on my calendar for tasks, even if it's not an appointment with someone else, helps me to make sure that I get it done, or at least keep track of the time, even if I don't do it today, even if I postpone it in some way, at least it's on my calendar and it needs to be scheduled or rescheduled. And if I've been putting off a task, seeing it on a calendar tends to help me complete it sooner. So now today we're talking about time management, and I'm also running a webinar on Halloween the 31st. It's called Get Noticed Now, Increase Visibility Online and in the Media. So we're not going to be talking as much about time management on that particular webinar, but we are going to talk about getting noticed, and we're going to talk about techniques that we can use to make sure that we're maximizing the time, the money, and the investment that we put into marketing and public relations. And I love helping people who have someone for PR or want to hire someone, but also people who are looking at trying to do things themselves and get some tips. So regardless of which camp you fall into, it's wisewordsthatmatter.com/webinar for this free interactive webinar where we're going to talk about brainstorming strategies. We're going to talk about all sorts of ways to increase your exposure. And so let's talk about the next time management strategy. So, you know the old adage about one task at a time only, always try to minimize interruptions, all of that. So the way I look at that is one task at a time, usually. So people have told me that I'm good at multitasking in certain situations, and contrary to popular wisdom, there really are some tasks that are actually better done at the same time. So like, if I'm writing and concentrating, then I tend to focus on that solely. On the other hand, if I'm making phone calls, doing social media, and I'm on hold a lot, or if I'm waiting for people to answer the phone, I might have something else going on. If not on paper, at least in my head. Maybe I'm trying to brainstorm ideas while I'm on cold calls, for example, or something like that. So the idea being that it depends on how much concentration, how much attention I need for a particular task, whether I'm going to do multiple tasks at a time. So it's really important for me to set boundaries. And when I'm writing, when I'm in the flow of what I'm doing, emails and texts, I might not see them for a couple of hours, and there's certainly no place for social media there either. So it helps me track how long a project takes, and that's important when I'm billing clients and also when I'm deciding to price a job, because when I decide how much something needs to be, I look at the value that I'm providing to clients, the expertise, the research needed, and also the time that it takes to do the job, and that's really important. So time management for anyone who does any sort of billable hours is really important. So I was mentioning about limiting interruptions as well. And I definitely work better when I'm in that flow, completing a task, don't have to worry about interruptions, because I'm faster, I'm more efficient, more effective. Because every time I get interrupted, I have to get back into the swing of things. Maybe I lose my place, or other tasks, other thoughts start to distract me. So if someone does interrupt me, I try to take a second to finish my sentence or somehow keep track of where I am in the task, so that at least when I come back to it, I can spend less time on that sort of orientation, that where am I kind of question when I go back to doing my work. And if it's a thought in my own head that's interrupting me, like a concern or an idea or some kind of problem that I'm having, I write it down elsewhere, and then I go back to work to help me sort of discharge whatever that thought is. And there are lots of, I call them regimented interruptions that people find useful. So like somebody who walks around the room every 30 minutes, like clockwork. I don't implement those in that way because my flow is more important to me when I'm working on something. So I like to stop at natural breaking points, because breaks are really important. I'm not going to just keep working straight through forever. Breaks energize me, and the breaks work best when I feel like I've completed something. So if I can walk away with a small sense of accomplishment, so if I've finished a paragraph, a couple of paragraphs, a section, a certain amount of phone calls or emails, then I can take a break and feel really good about what I've done and about the break, and not still hold on to quite so many thoughts of what I'm doing. And of course, feeling refreshed improves my time management as a creative professional too, because that way I don't have to be so concerned about, or I'm not going to lose my place so much, or my mind wandering and all that if I'm fresh. So, and finally, before I sign off here, I want to talk briefly about not a way to kind of waste less time or not waste time is to use productive periods. So a lot of people talk about being morning people or evening people or whatever. I'm not quite so cut and dry in that way. I look at using my productive times or times when, for whatever reason, I feel engaged, refreshed. Maybe I just came back from doing something exciting, or maybe I got a good night's sleep, or whatever the case might be, had a good laugh. Doesn't matter. I look at how I'm feeling and I want to take advantage of that and get more creative work done when I feel at my best. So thanks everyone for tuning in, and definitely register for my free webinar, wisewords.thatmatter.com/webinar. Thanks everyone. Have a great day.